Hey, y'all, welcome in to another Saints pregame live chat. This live chat sponsored by Bud Light Ingredients, the Saints victory. And my name is Jeff Nowak, WWL digital sports producer. I will pop my name up there so you have some idea who I am talking to you. It is early. If I sound a little tired, it's because I was up working the LSU Alabama game last night. LSU decided to keep us up late, even though they didn't pull it out. It was a great game. But we're a little bleary-eyed this morning, getting the coffee in the system, getting ready for a noon kickoff. Those night LSU to early morning or noon Saints kickoffs, I should say, are always a little tough. But we're here, we're working, and the Saints are here. The Saints are working. There's been a lot of firsts in this season that took a while to get here. This week is one of them. The first time all year the Saints have played back-to-back home games. Even if they had started at home and not in Jacksonville, that would still be the case. Just a strange start to the season, a strange scheduling kind of dynamic where they've been on the road a lot. And it seems like more because of that Jacksonville game. But, we're here, we're firing. The Saints have a lot to figure out today. They're facing a Falcons team that's a little better than I think most people give them credit for. They won't have Calvin Ridley, who's dealing with, off the field issues. But this is a rivalry for a reason, even if it hasn't felt that way. The Saints have won 7 of the last games in this quote unquote rivalry. And I guarantee you the Falcons are ready to flip that script a little bit. If y'all remember the last time the Falcons came into the Superdome, really kind of reeling as the Saints were starting, trying to figure out the back half of a season with a different quarterback. The Falcons embarrassed the Saints. It was again following an LSU Alabama game. It was the day after LSU Alabama in 2019, that crazy upset. Atlanta walked in. I want to say they were 1-6 at that point and just put a hurting on the Saints. Brian Hill, was the running back that really damaged the Saints in that game. This week it's gonna be weird. You're gonna end up looking at Cordarrelle Patterson. Yes, that Cordarrelle Patterson, in the backfield a lot for the Falcons. Mike Davis, a guy that you might not have heard of for quite a while outside of Carolina. He's going to be a big piece for the Falcons today. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. On the Saints side, you have Trevor Siemian, starting quarterback Trevor Siemian. We're gonna get Taysom Hill back in the action today. One thing that I've kind of interpreted from this decision and this timeline and from what Sean Payton said throughout the week is I don't think this was necessarily a choice between Trevor Siemian and Taysom Hill just because of the concussion timeline. As Sean said, they were making that decision, just as Taysom Hill was coming out of the concussion protocol. He has been cleared from the concussion protocol. He missed 2 weeks, but he wasn't a full participant in practice until Thursday. So I don't think Taysom Hill was ever part of the equation. The question at quarterback for the Saints was whether they were going to start Trevor Siemian or, play the field, bring someone in, or maybe even go with rookie Ian Book. Ian Book will be active today. I imagine he'll serve in the backup role because Taysom Hill will be playing his typical kind of joker role on the offense. But what that indicates to me is next week we're going to be in the same scenario. So this is a big week for Trevor Siemian to show that he is that long-term starter. If he comes out and struggles today, you could very easily see a quarterback change next week. If he comes out and plays really well, he could solidify that spot. So, this is an audition. This is not Trevor Siemian this being the starting quarterback the rest of the season. This is an audition for him to earn that role the rest of the way. And, I don't think that he could have asked for a better way to play himself into a job. But keep that in mind as you watch this game today. It's not only about winning, it's about playing the right way, not playing risk-averse football, not turning the ball over, putting the Saints in position to win. Because that defense can win you games week in, week out. You just have to play complementary football and get them in position to win the game for you, like you did last week. Like you did last week with PJ Williams intercepting that pass. If Trevor Siemian can't lead them down the field for that field goal, that interception for a pick six is a completely different scenario. Tom Brady's not pushing the ball at that point, So these are moments throughout a game where you have to trust the quarterback to do the job, and he did last week. Can he do it this week? We will see. I don't think we are out of the woods of Sean Payton really kind of holding us over the fire and saying who's going to be the quarterback. He's going to do that as long as there's an advantage. It's going to be an advantage as long as there's uncertainty, which there is. But first, let's gonna throw you some comments from Siemian throughout the week after he was named starting quarterback. He had a lot of interesting things to say. He kind of reminds me. He has an old man Manning vibe, if that makes sense to anyone else. He's very, very even keeled. Sean Payton described him as flatline in a good way. And I would go more Eli than Peyton in terms of just, you never know. You would never know by looking at him if he's doing well, if he's doing poorly. He's always got that same kind of, just calm dog demeanor. And here it is.
I think maybe sometimes I look calm, and I'm not actually. But yeah, I think for me playing quarterback, there's so much going on. You're focused on so many details and orchestrating certain things and trying to communicate clearly to your guys that I think that takes up a lot of my headspace. So yeah, I would just say that. I expect to play. I think I've had a lot of confidence in myself to play. And when it happened, like I said, I didn't know if it was going to happen or when it was going to happen, but I knew I'd be ready. And here we are. So, I expect to play well, just like everybody else on this team. So that's my mindset. And yeah. My wife was joking with me. This is, the longest I've been with one club in a while, which isn't saying much. I think it's like not even been a year. So hopefully I stick around.
But yeah, I think what you get from listening to Trevor Siemian is, he's aware this is an opportunity for him, right? The Saints always invest heavily in that backup quarterback position they have for years now. And, why do you do that? Well, these are the scenarios you wind up in. And I assure you the Saints are much happier throwing Trevor Siemian in there than trying to go out on the free agent heap and bringing in someone at the last second. I think if you need any justification for spending a bit more money and carrying an extra veteran as a backup, I think this is it. But again, my name is Jeff Nowak, WWL Digital Sports Producers, your Bud Light Ingredients for Saints Success live chat. We're going to bring in Deuce McAllister with his ingredients for success in a few moments here. I see him in the background there. It looks like he's still getting set up, but we'll throw that to you in a bit. But again, just to set this up a little bit. So Falcons coming in at 3-4, Saints 5-2. They can take the first place in the NFC South with a win today, by virtue of that, the first half of that tiebreaker. So, we're just in the season where every game is huge. Every result is huge in terms of how it can impact the end of season race, especially these NFC matchups, because that tiebreaker always seems to loom large, the NFC record. Again, we're going to bring in Deuce here momentarily. Saints kick off today at noon over on Fox. If you have any questions, comments, anything, throw them in the chat, and we'll get to them in the back half after we hear from Deuce, and we'll go from there. Again, noon kickoff. Make sure you tune into WWL AM 870 FM 105.3 to follow Deuce and Mike Hollis live as they call the game. And I'm going to throw to a commercial really quick when we come back. See if I can hit you with Deuce's keys to victory. All right. Deuce, we got you there?
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you.
Yeah, my problem is it's not connected to my headphones for some reason. Give me 1 second. I got another one maybe that I can plug in. Give me one second.
All right, I'll pop you out. All right, as you heard, we're having some technical difficulties, but we will get Deuce on here shortly. So hang tight. You're gonna have to listen to me for a few more minutes. We'll get to some questions as we start going here. Mike has a question. In your opinion, which wide receiver has the favorable matchup against Atlanta's DBs? So, yeah, we haven't gotten into it at all yet, but obviously Michael Thomas out for the season, as we learned. So the receivers you have out there, with OBJ rumors notwithstanding, you're talking about Marquez Callaway, Traquan Smith, Taysom Hill, all these other guys. Ty Montgomery is going to be out today. That's a big hit on special teams. He hasn't been as involved in the offense over the last few weeks, but it's obviously a big hit on special teams. And then you have Deontay Harris, these guys. Taysom Hill is back. I think he has the best matchup of anybody. I think he always does, especially in these Falcons matchups. And it's just going to be a matter of how you incorporate those receivers into a Trevor Siemian-led offense. I think that, it's important to mention the offense you saw with Trevor Siemian last week isn't necessarily going to be what you see this week with a week to prepare. Anytime you have to go to a backup mid-game, there's very limited things you can do with your game planning. You're not spending a ton of time thinking, well, what if Trevor Siemian gets in there? How are we going to play to his strengths? You don't do that. You don't have time to do that. So the fact that the Saints were able to make it work last week was huge. And this week you can actually go into a game with some strategy surrounding Trevor Siemian's skill set. And I think you're going to see, a bit more of the edges incorporated with Trevor. He throws a good deep ball. I think that, he gets the ball to the edges of the field really well. You saw it on that deep ball to Kevin White in the third quarter. I think that's the type of throw that you're going to see targeted a little bit more. The Saints have really struggled on go routes, on hitting go routes up the sidelines so far this season. I think, Jameis throws a really good deep ball. He throws it really well in the middle of the field. He's got a cannon. I don't know if he necessarily throws that perimeter deep ball as well as some other guys. So I think that I'd like to see the Saints try to push the ball down the boundaries a little bit more than they have. And it's something that you can do without putting your quarterback at risk, because these are quick throws, even though they're targeting guys down the field, because you're not waiting on double moves. You're kind of just going. And so that's where I like to see it. And I think, I don't know much about the Falcons defensive backs, but I think the Saints wide receivers need to show up at some point, because we've lost the ability to say, well, when Michael Thomas gets back, things are going to change. We don't know if things are going to change because he's not getting back. So these guys need to show up. Traquan Smith needs to show out. He looked a lot better in week 8 than he did in week 7. He looked like he had a lot of rust in week 7, but he, found the end zone in week 8. He looked a little more confident. He sounds a little more confident. So he's the guy that I'm looking at the most in those matchups. Yes, before we get Deuce on here, we can talk about this. I think Mark needs 62 yards to get that rushing record. I think that'd be asking a lot, just because of, how involved Alvin Kamara is going to be in the offense. But it's very much possible. All it takes is one big run, one 30, 40-yard run, and you're right there. If he breaks a run, he's not going to get that many opportunities. But if he breaks a run, it could happen. And that's a big moment. I think that it's easy to lose track of because he was so close 2 years ago and then it kind of fell off. That mark has stood for a long time. That's a very significant mark in any team's history, your all-time leading rusher. And I keep saying Mark because it's Mark Ingram, but, I think there's a really good chance he gets there, either, if not this week, next week. And you'd like to see him do it at home. So, maybe if he picks up 20, 30 yards rushing in the first half and this game gets a little out of hand, you could see him get kind of hammered with carries in the second half and maybe take it down. But yeah, it's going to be a cool moment whenever it happens. Kyle Pitts, the guy who has forced people throughout the country to say unicorn way more than I want to hear it, but people want to call him a unicorn. And that's kind of what he is, I guess. He's just, he's what the Giants thought they were getting at Evan Ingram. And whether you want to say that's more about the Falcons and the Giants, Kyle Pitts is very difficult to cover. And stopping him will be a key for the Saints today, because the Falcons do not have Calvin Ridley. So I think he's going to be a focal point of that offense. But okay, it looks like we got Deuce back. And let's bring him in to get his ingredients to Saints success. See if we can get his audio. Deuce, you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me, Jeff?
I can. Looks like we got it sorted out. How you doing today, Deuce?
I'm doing pretty good. Good.
You're over at the Dome. I can hear a little behind you. What would you say, is the biggest key for the Saints to taking home a win today against the Falcons?
Well, I think one of the big things that they have to be able to do is protect the quarterback. When you talk about Trevor being a new quarterback in this system, he is a guy that has started. He's played in the NFL. So I think, one of the critical things for the Saints would be protecting the quarterback. Because you can look to get some exotic looks from the Falcons. They're going to probably try to pressure the quarterback. They haven't done a great job when you talk about just rushing the passer naturally as far as the front four is concerned. So I think, one of the things that they have to do is pressure the quarterback.
Yeah, and one thing I was mentioning earlier is, I feel like you're going to see a much different kind of incorporation of Trevor this week than you did last week, kind of coming in mid-flow. Did you see anything last week that kind of seemed like the Saints could change it up just with a full week to prepare for kind of Trevor Siemian's playing style?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, you talk about the intermediate passes. I think that they'll take advantage of some of that. And then, really talking about the back shoulder fade throw and or the go route. We saw him be able to hit that first play of the third quarter. That's something that he does really naturally. And, when you talk about being just on point with some of the calls as far as checks and different things of that nature, like I said, he's played in the NFL a long time. So, for him to go out there and get the reps and be able to actually prepare to start for this game, I think for him, he will be a lot more confident.
For sure. This feels like it's every year we have a backup quarterback that we're trying to figure out midseason. It just seems like in so many instances, the Saints would go into this game as, kind of feeling like, man, if the Saints win, it would be, kind of fortunate. In this case, it just feels like, just the next step of this kind of ongoing thing. Is that kind of your impression as you go into the matchup?
If they don't win, it's going to be a huge disappointment. And that's
right.
Just being honest with you, because they are a better team than this Atlanta team. And so whether you have Trevor at quarterback or Taysom at quarterback, you're still a better team. Now, you still have to go out and play the game. But, I'll be interested to see how aggressive Sean is with him as far as at quarterback. Does he get the tight ends involved just because you're working some of the intermediate stuff? And then, can you push the football down the field? Because if I'm Atlanta, I'm going to load the box and I'm going to challenge those receivers on the outside and say that you can't beat them.
For sure. One more question from a fan that I don't have a great answer for, but I think you might have a better one from me. How do the Saints approach Kyle Pitts? It's such a unique matchup that it'll be interesting to see.
Well, if I'm the Saints, hey, look, if Malcolm is 100%, I'm putting Malcolm on him. If not, then I'm going to put Lattimore on him and let him just, I'm treating him like a traditional wide receiver, because he's got to flex out a lot. I'm going to jam him. He is the inline tight end. They're going to try to isolate him. So I'm giving him all of the coverage that I would normally give to a number one receiver. And so I think that's how you approach him.
Yeah, he definitely plays a lot more like a receiver than a tight end. But, Deuce, I appreciate you taking the time today. I know we've had some technical difficulties, but we got to sort it out. First, final thing before I let you go, how do you see this game going? Do you think that this is a game the Saints will kind of just show their kind of value on the defense and put it to bed early, or is this going to be one that fans are going to be sweating out?
No, I don't think the fans will sweat it out, but I think that it'll be, kind of a dogfight, so to speak, at least until the second half. The Saints are a better team. There's no doubt about that. If they're able to hit a big special teams play or, be able to get a turnover where they can kind of scoop and score or return an interception or something like that, then I don't want to say it'll rattle Atlanta, because I think Atlanta's going to fight to the end, but you'll feel a lot more confident.
Gotcha. Well, thanks again, Deuce. Make sure you check him out on the call over with Mike Haas, WWL AM 870 FM 1053. And thanks for stopping by.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay. All right, we're back. And yes, I think Deuce hit the nail on the head here. It's very much a matchup that, if the Saints lost it, you would feel like they blew an opportunity at a game they should have had. And that's not normal for a team that is without a starting quarterback. How many times do you play a game without your starting quarterback and think, man, they blew that, and that's where the Saints have kind of gotten themselves after years and years of having to deal with a backup, of having that backup entrenched, paying them money. You're not just bringing in a guy and saying, well, if they go in, if we're screwed, we're not winning. That's not how the Saints have approached it. The Saints have approached it like a team that wants to be confident that when their backup goes in, they have a legitimate chance to win that game. And they have more than any other team in the NFL of the past 2 years. So I think that's where you are and that's where you're going. And, can Trevor Siemian be enough the rest of the way to get to the playoffs and to make a deep run in the playoffs? One thing that I mentioned to some criticism on Twitter early in the week was Trevor Siemian has a Super Bowl ring, and while it doesn't mean anything, I mean, he was the backup to the backup on that 2015 Broncos team that was kind of, whatever you want to say about Peyton Manning, he rode the bus to the Super Bowl, whatever. They won that Super Bowl based on defense and smart play at the quarterback position, game managing, if you will. And I think that there's value in Trevor Siemian being along for the ride on that road to the Super Bowl, where you watched that a team can win a Super Bowl with a quarterback playing intelligently and relying on his defense to pick him up when he can't get it done, just not putting them in bad situations. Old man Peyton Manning was not the reason the Broncos won that Super Bowl, but he could have been the reason they didn't win the Super Bowl if they lost. And that's the value of having a guy like Trevor Siemian watch that team win a title over a young and incredible Cam Newton and the Panthers, a very good football team, by executing and being smart on offense, right? This was not the Peyton Manning offense that blew the doors off people. This was the Peyton Manning offense that survived and allowed the defense to be in good situations to tee off and win games. And that's what happened. And that's who Trevor Siemian needs to channel. He does not need to channel, all-pro Peyton Manning, NFL legend Peyton Manning. Trevor Siemian needs to channel old man Peyton Manning. That's who I need Trevor Siemian to be, and that's who the Saints need Trevor Siemian to be to have a chance at getting to the playoffs and winning a Super Bowl, right? Call it Rex Grossman. Call it Trent Dilfer. I don't care. He just needs to understand that it is possible for a team with an elite defense to win a Super Bowl with a quarterback playing the right way and playing complementary football. He watched it happen firsthand. Now he has to do it. Can he? That's another question. Is he kind of the guy you would look at and say, yeah, I could see him being that guy? Sure. And I think he might have a bit more arm talent than a guy like Dilfer, than a guy like Grossman. He's definitely in a much more advantageous situation with Alvin Kamara being there beside him to kind of take a lot of the pressure off. You don't have the wide receivers, but you have the ultimate security blanket. And the offensive line, you lost Andrews Pete, but 4 of those starters on the offensive line are, elite offensive line members. And he's going to benefit from that. It's very difficult to have an elite defense and an elite offensive line. The Saints have it. You have to give up something somewhere. That something has been at the wide receiver position, because as we have seen this year, they didn't have much depth. They had Michael Thomas. They had an elite weapon at wide receiver. Behind him, they did not have much, and that's being exposed a little bit. But, you can survive without wide receivers. You cannot survive without an offensive line. And you can't win with great receivers if your offensive line can't block. So I think the Saints have set this up correctly. I think Trevor Siemian is in a dream situation for a guy who was out of the starting job for multiple seasons and now gets a chance to, kind of secure his role the rest of the way. It could go sideways, and we could end up seeing Taysom Hill next week. We could end up seeing Ian Book next week. But one way or another, this is going to be a game that we watch and we remember for a while. And I'm looking forward to it, even though I'm clearly still a little tired. I got the coffee here in my Lemur mug, but yeah, let's see. Remember, any questions? My name's Jeff Nowak, WWL Radio digital sports producer. Make sure you drop a question or comment in the chat, and I'll get to them here in the back half. Gonna try to pop in a few. We got some people chiming in. Timothy Moore, great morning. Who dat? I'm watching already on Screen Variety. I don't know what that means, but I'm happy for you. Aaron 504 Clark, good morning to you as well. We got some Fleur-de-Lis and a football. Not seeing any more questions. Going to move on a bit and see if there's any when we come back to it. But yeah, we're about 90 minutes away from kickoff at the Dome. Make sure to check out over when we get off here, head over to WWL AM 870 FM 105.3. Follow the last hour plus of the pregame show with Christian Garrick and Bobby Aber leading you up to noon. We kick off over on Fox. You can sync up the TV to the radio and listen to Deuce McAllister, the great Deuce McAllister, and Mike Haas on the call. Again, this is your Bud Light ingredients to Saints success live chat, Bud Light with the ingredients proudly printed on the label. We are talking about hops, barley, water, and rice. That's it. That's all it's got. Make sure to enjoy a few of those as you watch the game. I wish I could. I'm working. But as always, please don't drink and drive. Looks like we got another comment in here. Question: how do you think Trevor will perform? It's a good question. I got this a little earlier. I think that, and Deuce mentioned this as well, those kind of intermediate to deep throws, right? The 20, 30 yards down the field, particularly as you attack the edges of the field. One thing I noticed in training camp, that I hadn't picked up on from watching Trevor Siemian, kind of operate in his role with the Broncos, is he has a very clean and impressive looking deep ball. He's not the strongest arm in the world. I think Jameis can get it out farther than he can with a little more velocity. But there are guys you watch throw, and it just looks like a ball that's easy to catch. It comes out of his hand clean. It's a perfect spiral. It has a great trajectory. It drops into a bucket, right? I think that's where, when you're talking about a guy throwing the ball, you can lose a little of like, okay, what is different about this guy throwing a ball versus this guy throwing a ball? Okay, well, Taysom Hill, you're never going to look for more arm strength. Taysom Hill has a cannon. When you talk about touch, he has touch, but he doesn't have down the field touch. He doesn't have short field touch. He's very much in the intermediate range, and he's firing it in, right? That's not the throw you want all the time. More often than not, when you're talking about a guy in the middle of the field, you don't want that ball to be rifled in. You want it to be put where he's going, and it doesn't even have to be perfect. If there's air under it, the receiver is going to course correct, right? If you put it where he can go get it, that's a good thing. If you feel like you have to put it on a dime every time, you're going to have a hard time completing a lot of passes, especially down the field on go routes where guys are trying to make these acrobatic catches. You want to give them a chance, not give them one very specific chance, right? And that's what I see Trevor Siemian doing a lot better than a guy like Taysom Hill. And then to be frank, a guy like Jameis Winston. He had a couple nice throws against the Seahawks that I think, you could put it on Kevin White, you could put it on Kenny Stills, fine. But this is Kevin White, this is Kenny Stills, right? These aren't guys I'm going to blame for not making a catch. But you have to give them an opportunity. He did to an extent, but, I think if those were better throws, those are big plays. And those are the type of throws that I'm looking to see Trevor Siemian connect on. He needs to be smart. He needs to not turn the ball over. And I think that that's something that he will do because he understands. And he's a veteran. He's 29 years old. It's not his first day. I think he'll play well. I wouldn't start him in fantasy. Just wouldn't do it. But fantasy football and regular football often do not combine for the same number of wins and losses. And I think that's going to be the case today. I think Trevor Siemian is going to play well enough. I think the Saints are going to win. I don't think he's going to have an impressive line on the stat sheet. I think you're going to be looking at a lot of those 200-yard passing games with maybe a couple touchdowns the rest of the way. That's just how the Saints have shown they can win games, even with Jameis Winston. And I don't see why that would change now. They're not going to open up the offense, but you are going to try to see those kind of quick strike plays when you get them because the Saints need them to get down the field at times. Do I have a score prediction? I hate score predictions. They are always wrong. I think this is going to be a higher scoring game. The Saints will not have Carl Granderson. It's a question of whether they're going to have Malcolm Jenkins. PJ Williams played well last week, but not a guy you want to rely on the entire game at the strong safety spot. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But I think the Saints. I think this is a close game early. I think the defense does enough. I think they force some turnovers. They get in the backfield. The Falcons' offensive line has struggled to this point in the season. Saints' defensive line seems to be hitting its stride. I would expect to, for Cam to extend his NFL record for times sacking one quarterback, which I believe is at 22 now. I could be wrong. I have to look that up, but I expect that to be extended. And, if they can get in the backfield and they can rattle Matt Ryan a little bit, this game could get out of hand. The Falcons are going to move the ball. The Falcons are going to score. I just don't think that they're going to be able to score enough to keep up with the Saints defense, putting the Saints offense in position to score. And that's kind of how I see it. I think this is going to be the ultimate defense to offense game. And that's my guess. I'm going to guess 30-22, 30-21, that range. The Falcons probably score a couple times in the fourth quarter. But I think in general, you're gonna see them struggle. Easy Drumsticks wants us to air it out. Easy Drumsticks digs the deep ball. That's it. I agree. I want him to air it out. This is off topic. OBJ's not here today. OBJ is not on a team. Odell Beckham Jr. is not on a team right now. He hits the waiver wire early next week. I do not think the Saints will claim him. I have been pretty vocal on Twitter that I don't think anyone's going to claim him. I mean, how do you you need to be a very competitive team to consider bringing him in at all, and under any circumstances. And then you claim him on waivers, and you're not really getting a chance to talk to him to make sure he wants to be there. So you're signing a check for $7.5 million for what could essentially be a live grenade if the circumstances are not right. And while, yeah, sure, maybe OBJ is going to be on his best behavior knowing he has to play for a contract, the Browns tried for years to smooth out the edges on that situation. And eventually, in a season that they are still competing for something, they felt like, we just got to cut bait. We can't do this anymore. And that's not a guy you bring in on a whim. That's not a guy you just say, yeah, it's OBJ. Make the claim. We can afford it. Because first of all, most competitive teams can afford it. They're going to have to make some tricky maneuvers to get that money onto the salary cap. And unless you've back-channeled and you are very confident in what you're getting, I don't see it happening. So anyway, things get hit free agency. I think the Saints have as good a chance as anybody. If he wants to come back to New Orleans, I think the Saints can get their hands on him, whether they want to take that locker room risk of a guy who, is a wild card at best coming in. I think he can make the team better. I also think that he can really impact team chemistry and the locker room if you don't do it in the right way. And so I'm not going to get too much into it, but undecided. The future is cloudy. If there's a magic 8-ball, you would say undetermined. But we'll see. We'll know on Tuesday whether he gets claimed. I'm not sure what that means. Kenny Stills did play last week. He peaked at the safety. Oh, peaked. Okay. P-E-E. Yeah. Okay. When he dropped the ball. Yes, he's played. I mean, last week was weird. Well, I think Kenny Stills is going to be a part of the offense, but Kenny Stills is still not a guy that you're looking at as like, man, how is he not catching passes? He's Kenny Stills. I mean, he's a guy you brought in mid-season. Like, I think he's played about as well as you could hope. Does Mark Ingram get his record today? I don't think so. There's a chance. If this game gets out of hand and you can just kind of hammer him with some carries, there's a chance. He needs about 62 yards. But I think it's more likely he gets it in week 10. You'd like him to do it at home. So if the Saints are in a position late in the game where he has 40 yards and they can just get him the ball a couple times down the stretch, not worried about game pressure, I think that they would have incentive to get it out of the way at home against the Falcons. I think they want to do that. Can they? That's the question. If he gets to halftime with 30 rushing yards in that range, I think you're gonna see him. You're gonna see the Saints give him a chance. If he needs 30 yards in the fourth quarter, I don't know. Let's see. The inactives must have come out while we were on here. So let's see if I can pull them up for you. Yep, I got them. So all the inactives, I'll go through them here. Defensive tackle Montravius Adams. Actually, I can just share them. Hold on. All right, this is the last thing I'll pop up here, and then I'll let y'all go. Oops. No, I want the solo. There we go. Yeah, so here are the inactives for the Saints. We don't have the Falcons yet. But there you have it. So you have defensive tackle Montravius Adams, defensive end Jalen Holmes, tight end Juwan Johnson, wide receiver Ty Montgomery, defensive end Carl Granderson, defensive lineman Malcolm Roach. There are a few notes here. One being Malcolm Jenkins is not listed as inactive. He was listed as questionable coming in. So that's a good sign that he will at least try to give it a go today. Carl Granderson, we knew would be out. Ty Montgomery, we knew would be out. Taysom Hill is back. There's a chance you get Nick Vannett. I haven't seen anything, but I don't think the Saints are going to go into this game with one tight end active. So I think you get him. There's a chance he's out there, or Garrett Griffin. So we'll have to wait and see. There's no guarantee yet. A lot of times it's work out right before and see what happens. But the other thing to note here, backup Ian Book has been inactive the first 7 games. He's not listed here today, which means Ian Book is the backup quarterback. So if Trevor Siemian goes down, expect to see Ian Book in the game. Taysom Hill is in the game, but as we've seen the Saints operate so many times, when Taysom Hill is playing his typical role, he is not the backup quarterback. He is Taysom Hill. And so when the starting quarterback goes down, it's not going to be, okay, Taysom Hill shifts over. It's going to be whoever that backup is coming in and taking over that week. And that's not necessarily going to be the case the next week, as we saw in 2020, where Jameis Winston came in and then Taysom Hill got the start the week after against the Falcons. So Ian Book, keep in mind, if Trevor Siemian goes down, Ian Book is the guy. So there's a chance the next few games, assuming Trevor Siemian remains a starter, that Ian Book gets some snaps. So he's got to watch. The Saints brought him in for a reason. They like him. So yeah. That's a good point. Turner and Davenport are active together for the first time. And it's good to see Peyton Turner back on the field. Hopefully he can stay healthy, because he was an impact. That week 2 game against the Panthers was ugly. Peyton Turner was a show. And so, the Saints defensive line, when it's been healthy, has been very difficult to stop, and hopefully that can keep going. Yeah, we're back on OBJ. I agree with this. I just think there's a really good chance the Saints bring him in, and if they're able to kind of sit down with him and kind of hash it out and get answers on exactly what happened in Cleveland and come to a reasonable deal, I think that it makes sense for the Saints to bring him in. I just don't think they're not going to claim him. There's just no way you take that risk without being able to sit down with a guy. But that's something to worry about next week. Yes, I agree with this, Nick. But yeah, again, my name is Jeff Nowak, WWL digital sports producer. I think that's going to be it from me. We got about a little over an hour left until kickoff. I'm going to head over to the Dome, get set up. Again, make sure to check out WWL Radio, AM 870, FM 105.3. Deuce McAllister, Mike Haas on the call against your Bud Light ingredients for Saints success. Live chat. Are the Saints ingredients, the Saints success, are a little more complicated than Bud Lights. Those are proudly printed on the label. You got hops, barley, water, and rice. I actually remembered it without looking that time. I am proud of myself for being able to come to memorize a list of 4 things and say it while looking directly into a camera. So it's good. It's a good day for me. I hope it's a good day for you. Hopefully it's a good day for the Saints. Again, you can follow me on Twitter at Jeff_Nowak. Follow us on YouTube. I'll pop up the channel below, youtube.com/seed/WWL Sports. Add daily video updates. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to check us out over on Twitter at WWL_AMFM, and over on the Odyssey app. That's going to be it for me. Thanks for everyone who tuned in, everyone who dropped in a comment, everyone, Deuce McAllister for coming in as he does every week. Sorry about we had technical difficulties, but hey, it's live for a reason. And let's see what happens. See you next week. Who dat?